everybody, how's it going? Well, I fucked that up real fucking bad. I really pulled the rug out from under you though, didn't I? Because I came from that side instead of that side like I normally do. Oh man, you never know what you're gonna get with me. I truly am a clusterfuck of a person. So for those of you who don't know, today marks the official start of E3, and I gotta say, I love E3 with all of my heart. It's my favorite time of year. It truly is my Christmas. It's just 3 solid straight days of new video games, new trailers. It's just a really great time to be a fan of video games. But the timing of the event this year is significantly awkward, to say the least, because we just saw the biggest mass shooting in American history just the other day, in which a radical Islamist killed 50 gay people in a nightclub in Orlando, Florida. And of course, the shameless denizens of the internet couldn't wait to use this tragedy to talk about how abhorrent it is that violent video games exist in the first place, and how video games are creating mass shooters. All this anti-scientific bullshit that we've been hearing for decades from the religious right. Only now, instead of the religious right, it's fucking everybody. Now this shit astounded me to no end because to me it's a pretty perfectly clear-cut case. The guy happened to practice the Muslim faith. He targeted gay people in a nightclub. He shouted fucking Allahu Akbar. The motive and the cause for this shooting seems to be relatively certain. Now look, I get wanting to defend moderate Muslims and peaceful Muslims from unnecessary hate. I understand that. I have a lot of casually Muslim friends who wouldn't dream of doing anything like this. But to protect the radical extremist section of said religions and deflect criticism from them and onto an industry that has nothing to do with it, you're fucking scum if you do that. You're a piece of shit. Nobody fucking loves you. Your parents probably regret not aborting you. I know I would. So instead of talking about the tragedy to further a political agenda, instead we're going to make a list of all the self-righteous cunts doing just that. Now our first cunts of the day are Chris Planty and TJ Satic, who wrote an article on The Verge with the stupidest fucking title I have ever seen. How do you sell violent video games after a tragedy? Pretend like it didn't happen. Right, because you know the best place to address a mass shooting? You know what the best place to do that is? The EA E3 press conference as they're talking about Battlefield 1. Hey, you know that event that you've been planning for several months on end? Hey, you know that game that you've been developing for several years? You know that trailer that you were planning to reveal at E3 that you've been probably editing and rendering for like several months? Yeah, fuck that. You just add something about a tragedy that just happened. Just sprinkle it in there. It's that easy, right? Just sprinkle it in. Just sprinkle it in. Hey, instead of showing off our hard work, you know, that hard work that everybody is here to see, why don't we just fucking, not do that and instead talk about how sad we are that a tragedy happened. That's a great, that'd be a great way to start off our fucking press conference. A precedent exists for delaying video games and their promotion in response to tragedies. Okay, so what you're saying is you're upset that E3, a convention that people pay very good money to go to, a convention that is planned a year in advance, didn't delay all their violent video game trailers in response to a shooting? Hey sir, I'm sorry to bother you. I understand that you took the time to fly all the way to Los Angeles. I know that's not cheap. I know that you bought a ticket to E3, which is not cheap, and even if you were invited, you still gotta pay for a hotel, which isn't cheap. I understand that, but fuck you and fuck your money, because the stuff that you paid to see, we're not gonna show it because something bad happened somewhere else. And then they go on to talk about how abhorrent it is that EA even made a first-person shooter about World War I in the first place, despite the fact that World War II shooters are a dime a dozen at this point. No complaints about that from what I can remember. And that's a war that probably still has a few remaining survivors. World War I? You're getting offended on behalf of the thousands, millions of people who died in World War I in 2016. Are you... What even are you? The self-righteousness in these people, the fucking righteous indignation that radiates from their being. It sickens me every time I see it. So congrats to Chris Planty and TJ Satic, or whatever the fuck your name is, for making the fucking list. Our next cunt is Jonathan Blow, the man who made Braid, for this stunningly inept tweet. The lesson of E3. Game studios are working to build fantasies about how cool it is to be a mass murderer. You know what's really stunning about this one? You know what's really astounding about this particular argument? Is that I remember seeing this argument levied towards comedy. Like, oh, you can't joke about rape, you can't joke about infanticide or what have you, because joking about it just trivializes it. When you joke about rape, you're telling your audience that it's cool to rape. Have you ever even fucking remotely entertained the thought that just maybe making these violent video games is a way for us to take something that's objectively horrible and objectively depressing and objectively horrific and turn it into something positive for people? Like, isn't it a good thing that we can take something that's as horrific as World War I and turn it into something that brings people joy instead of bringing people fucking depression? But no one ever talks about that because they're too busy getting offended on behalf of people who are fucking dead. He goes on to say that what he said is an objectively true statement, like it's obviously true. And I'm sorry, Jonathan Blow has been. It's not objectively true. I hate it when people take their subjective interpretation of something and make it into objective fact. So yeah, Jonathan Blow's a cunt. Now here's a fucking soul-splitting display of intellectual infancy by a guy named Justin McElroy. If you are a game journalist covering E3 this week and you're seeing a shooter, ask the question. You know the one. Ask it. Let's all ask. It may be a drop in the cultural bucket, but working to de-glamorize gun violence in this medium is tangible. Is a tangible thing, I guess he meant to say? A tangible thing that we can actually do. The question I'm referring to is this. How many mass shootings until the game industry stops making shooting people seem fun? How many mass shootings until the news media stops glorifying fucking mass murderers? See, here's an interesting fact for you guys. As video game violence gets more graphic, more realistic, more accessible, as more violent video games are around, violence overall declines. The fact that it's 2016 and I still have to say this is mesmerizing because it's been a fact for as long as I can goddamn remember. Now with that said, mass murders and mass shootings have increased exponentially ever since 24-hour media coverage of these stories became commonplace. So let me ask you a question. Of these two issues, fictional video game violence and glorification of real murderers on the news, which one do you think is more compellingly relevant? Oh, you probably don't want to hear that because you still want to feel morally superior. And our last reprehensible tub of lard is, Bob Chipman, otherwise known as Movie Bob. E3 exhibitors, now probably a good time to go through your shooter presentation and ask, is any of this in poor taste? Alright, now Movie Bob, I'm gonna have to ask you to sit down, even though in all likelihood you're probably already doing that. The minute we censor our entertainment in response to the actions of savages is the minute the savages win. Oh my god, Islam doesn't like us drawing Muhammad. Fucking kill yourself. I'll draw your prophet how I want to draw your prophet, you fucking cancerous mass of dim-witted cave cunts. Oh, and by the way, the people I'm calling cave cunts are radical Muslim extremists, not Muslims. I want to clear that up before Cenk Uygur and Reza Aslan just take my words and twist them up as they're so professionally capable of doing. Just because an asshole did a reprehensible thing doesn't mean we should react in a way that basically says, oh, it's our fault, we're the monsters. It's not his responsibility, it's everyone else. It's our video games, it's our movies, it's our television shows. We did this. It's our fault this shooting happened. Meanwhile, you have all sorts of other facets that are directly responsible. You have religions that explicitly dehumanize certain groups of people, and yet those religions are defended. You have mental health, which isn't treated nearly as seriously as it should be. But again, let's not talk about that. If you're still making this argument, if you're saying it's the video games that are causing all these mass shootings, it's the video games that are causing Islamic extremists to kill gay people, you might as well just slam your face into the concrete until you die. Because you don't deserve the brain in your head. You don't deserve all that cognitive ability if you're going to waste it with such a stupid assessment of such a complex issue. So congratulations to all the cunts that made it on the list today. I hope you're proud of yourself. Give yourself a round of applause. And that's it for me. I really didn't want to make a video like this. I really just kind of wanted to enjoy E3. So for the next couple days, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm working on a few videos now, but the next couple days are going to be empty. I'm just going to enjoy E3. I'm just going to enjoy all the video games. I'll talk about it. Maybe I'll do like a stream about it. But this week shouldn't be about reveling in fear. This week shouldn't be about bending to the will of the easily offended. It should be about celebrating video games. It should be about celebrating each other. And it should just be about having a good time. Now, it's fair to say the tragedy in Orlando makes that considerably harder to do. But I would argue that that's all the more reason to try harder, to just enjoy it. Just enjoy the week, and I don't know, stay positive or something.